Appreciate everyone joining us this afternoon for this session. It's quite an honor to be on stage with these two tenacious young engineers. As you probably know, aerospace is a very difficult animal to begin with, and it takes a unique mindset to be in an environment like that, building a startup essentially inside a startup. And these two engineers have been very successful in doing just that. They've provided significant impact to driving the operational change inside their organization, and not only the way they design spacecraft, but as well as the manufacturing process. And they've had that impact from the shop floor up to the C-suite. And so today we're going to attempt to cram as much as we can into this 25 minutes. So there's a very good chance we're not going to get an opportunity for some questions at the end of the session. So when we're done, we'll be outside the doors here to field any further questions on that. So what I'd like to do is just get started with the journey here. So you two, I'd like to, everybody has a unique story on how they started in this space. And so if you would, just give us a little bit of your background, kind of where you started, and what really drew you to where you're at today. So, Bridgette, would you like to go ahead and start?
Sure. Thank you, Tim, for the introduction. My name is Bridgette Sieffert, and I'm an augmented and virtual reality engineer at Terran Orbital. Terran Orbital designs and manufactures small satellites for some big customers like Lockheed Martin. So I'm originally from Minnesota, born and raised there, and I stayed close to home for college. I went to the University of Minnesota for my undergrad in computer engineering, and then I also got my master's there in computer and electrical engineering. As many Minnesotans do, I worked at 3M for a couple summer internships, and during one summer I had a little extra time after one of my projects, and my boss at the time said, "Hey, I have this HoloLens lying around, do you want to program it?" And I was like, "What's a HoloLens?" I had never heard of any XR headset before, so this is my first ever experience with it, and I fell in love. I spent a month programming it, learning all there is about it, doing data collection, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. So I actually got inspired by that to go back and get my master's and kind of focus on virtual reality development. And then fast forward to today, I'm now creating immersive AR experiences for some rapid satellite technology development.
Awesome. My name is Alejandro Mendoza. Thank you for the introduction, Tim. I am a Colorado native. I am currently working at Aerospace, leading extended and virtual realities. How I got there was actually a little bit tumultuous. I injured myself and then had nothing better to do while sitting in bed for 3 months. And I had been shown some technology prior to that, and essentially just pitched my boss, asked him if any of the use cases that I presented as potential means of development would interest him, and he told me just go for it. So it's been a great road. It's been quick, but very rewarding.
Fantastic. Well, I think it would be really important that we started off at the very most important part of this, is where does your organizations see the value in what you're doing, and how has that impacted certain areas of your organization? So if you would like to continue on, Alejandro?
Yeah, certainly. So before I was actually working in manufacturing. I'd been on the manufacturing floor for about a decade, doing composites, flight deck components, F-Series fighter jet components as well. I dabbled in startups, so I was kind of used to moving fast, but the question became, okay, like here's the new technology, prove its use. And we went top down. We went all the way from, we were in tail end of our Series A, entering Series B, and even meeting with investors, demonstrating the maturity of our designs, and also the ways that we were implementing the technology with design for manufacturability or inspection, so, like quite literally piecing apart the satellite piece by piece down to the ball bearing. That definitely caught the eye of a lot of different people, and I kind of went through multiple pitch phases, and holistically went from training to demonstrating to investors.
It's quite a spread, very challenging. Bridgette, how about you?
I have a similar spread of successes. So starting in the shop floor, trainings have been greatly impacted with AR. So we've been able to take our trainings and make them more hands-off by putting the technicians in a headset. It's a super safe way for them to do training for different machinery and robots and things like that, because there's no risk for them like hurting themselves before they're fully trained on it, as well as there's no risk to them damaging the expensive flight hardware. So it's been really cool, and they get very excited using a headset versus a paper and pencil training. So that's been cool. Another successful area has been manufacturing procedures. So actually designing things that the technicians can use while building the satellites. They don't have to run back and forth to a computer and look at a 2D image. It's all right in front of them, and it shows, what to put where to connect the two ends of the different wires, the order to torque the different screws in, all of that. So again, kind of working on that efficiency so that the technicians can move faster, as well as the quality so they can get it right the first time. And then kind of a spread like Alejandro, I've also had the opportunity to work on like the business development and the customer side of things. So when we have customer tours come in, we actually show them different AR simulations that our technicians use and say, hey, this is how we're implementing this really cool technology. This is how we're making advances and how we can build your product better. And they love that. It's definitely a big wow factor on the tours for them.
Very good, very good. I'd like to talk about some of the steps in your journey that we kind of all go through. One of my favorite starting points is always IT and security. And so if you would, just kind of give us a little bit of background on how you, met some of those challenges that you faced in that environment, and then some of the creative solutions that you may have come up with for dealing with that particular challenge.
Sure. So IT has a really hard job, especially working in a company that does like government contracts, trying to keep everything secure. We can't do anything on the cloud. So having to navigate like on-prem solutions and all of that with IT is definitely, I feel for them. It's a very hard job for them. So I've worked really hard to, when I have a new project, go to IT, have a nice business case to show, hey, here's the value proposition, here are the capabilities this is going to unlock in the company, and I come with a list of like, I know you're going to ask about cloud, so it doesn't have it, or you're going to ask if we can do it on-prem, yes, we can. So I come with my list of things that I know they're going to ask me to try to save them time, and then they get excited because they're like, oh, great, like less work for them doing research. So that's been definitely very successful. I also had the advice early on of having a really good relationship with IT and making sure to call out their successes, because they usually just hear the negative feedbacks if it's broken or it doesn't work, but no one really is like, oh, like my computer works now, thank you. So making sure to call them out, highlight them, and recognize them for the work that they're doing has been a really good solution to getting past the security challenges as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'll echo that. In reality, like your cybersecurity professionals may not be used to visualization technologies, and in our case, we had veterans in the industry for 20 years facing like extremely difficult problems with secure implementations, but had never even seen a headset before. So it's really on us to be able to demonstrate the knowledge of the technology and kind of volunteer the dangers first. Be like, hey, I know that there are vulnerabilities that can be introduced by brand new technologies, particularly those that everyone's really excited about right now, but to be the advocate, to just say, hey, let's approach this slowly and in a measured sense. And then even what I did was actually kind of pair with the person that's doubting you most. That was critical, and if I could convince them, then having that person be the advocate to the rest of the team that also wants to see this happen, like almost more than that one individual in the beginning, is extremely powerful.
I know getting time or getting some acceptance from IT to move down this path, is there anything that just kind of stood out like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that went that smoothly? Because typically there's a lot of steps in there, a lot of hurdles to jump. Is there anything that kind of just really took you by surprise?
I wouldn't say like I don't ever look back and say, oh, that went smoothly. But one thing in particular, like we were looking for solutions for scanning of the Dream Chaser spacecraft, which we'll be launching later this year. And essentially we had a window of about 48 hours, so 16 working hours before it was integrated into the tooling to be dropped into TVAC. And obviously that doesn't leave us much time because we were sitting there talking about it in Colorado and that was happening in Ohio. So I ended up calling the cybersecurity director at 5 o'clock my time. It was 7 o'clock his time. And we pulled in CEO, CTO of the company we were talking with, and he's like, hey, look, we're not approving any software at 7 p.m. on a Friday for a Tuesday scanning, but just to think creatively and say, okay, we'll treat them as a service. And like everyone wants you to succeed, even those that are opposing you, because it's their job. It's their job to keep our assets safe and our nation safe. So we have to come up with creative solutions. But it's never smooth.
That's fantastic. Bridgette, anything stick out for you?
I definitely don't have quite a fast turnaround as that. But one thing I think that has also been really cool is actually showing IT, getting them in the headsets. There's a couple months before I even showed them the project where they're like, and what are we doing again? Like, what is this for? And I keep, outlining it. And then one day I just went over to their building. I gave them a headset. They walked through the demo and they're like, wait, this is actually really cool. Now we're even more excited to work on your project. Didn't smooth things out because still have the hiccups, but it definitely got them really excited, which makes the whole thing work better.
Fantastic. So let's move on to the management side of things. I know in a lot of journeys that I've taken over this course in my life, the gray hair included, one of the biggest things I see is that initial starting point. You need the money to get started, but you kind of have to start to get the money. So how have you dealt with that as you're starting this initial journey? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think there's a saying, especially in a startup environment, it's like treat all company money as your own. Mm-hmm. So if you wouldn't spend the money on it, don't spend company money on it. I think starting with that in your mind first when creating these pitches to, at first, like program leadership and then kind of like director leadership and eventually on to executive leadership was key because it's like, no, I'm not trying to sell you pie in the sky idea. It's something that can be measured and return calculated. And essentially just finding that champion that will advocate for you after you've demonstrated that due diligence is key.
Fantastic.
Speaking of champions, I think from day one when I got there, I had a very influential SVP that he was a huge champion of AR, so having his support and help getting resources has been a huge, huge help. In terms of other management, it's definitely what's worked for me has been, again, a business case, coming to management with here's our timeline, our predicted ROI, the resources I'm going to need, just making sure everyone sees the full picture so we're all on the same page. That has made things go a lot smoothly, so no one's blindsided at all. And I've had this work really well. Some departments get so excited on board, they buy their own HoloLens and they're super stoked. And I've had it all the way on the flip side where, one director is like, I don't believe in AR, but that's like an anomaly. Pretty much everyone else has been really supportive of AR, and even all the way up to the CEO. He's called me and said, hey, I have this really cool idea, like, can you build it in AR? I'm like, yeah, that sounds awesome, and then I'll get right on it. So I think it's very validating, and it's definitely really good company visibility when everyone from the shop floor to the CEO is involved and on board and just excited about XR overall.
Are you seeing as you produce more content, you produce more activities out there, are you seeing more and more C-suite involvement and management involvement, or are you seeing other groups coming in from other parts of the organization to experience those type of activities as well?
Oh, definitely. Even just getting different groups exposure has sparked new ideas. So I'll talk to the mechanical engineering team, and they're like, oh, I've never heard of XR before, or I've never been in a headset. You put them in a headset for 10 minutes, and they have 18 new ideas for you of, this could help our team. We could do these 8 things in design reviews and things like that. And it goes across the whole company, talking to the mission ops team all the way to the spacecraft design. They all, as soon as they have the exposure and kind of really understand what capabilities we could unlock with AR, they get super, super excited. So I think that has been, exposure across the company has been key. The more it develops, the more people get excited, and the more that they brainstorm as well.
Yeah, it's definitely happening at like both levels, and in reality, taking and having a presence on the production floor is critical because that effect of value-added ideas is coming from all angles when you're on that floor. In reality, like engineers or technicians or even the managers that are just walking about can say, have you thought about using it in this creative way? And the next thing you know, you have like 2 months of backlog of projects to do. But I think that's something experienced by everyone. It's just managing expectations and finding solutions that are scalable so that when you do approach the leadership of the enterprise to say, okay, we have this specific track, I call them swim lanes, we'll be doing custom, like we'll be building in Unity or something like that. But also we have to have a solution that is less development intensive, but can still leverage assets and quickly turn around experiences.
Now, when a lot of the projects that I was involved in the past, I know that funding item always came up. And do you find that you have better success actually pulling out of the programs, or do you have more success actually working from kind of the enterprise side of things and actually getting these projects the necessary resources and funding?
Well, see, I timed it perfectly between CapEx cycles, which I wouldn't recommend. Definitely research your company's cycle and then maybe time it a little better than I did. But in the meantime, you can certainly supplement with program resources. You just have to really take the tools maybe that you've built generally and focus them down to how I can help that specific program. And then it's a pretty easy conversation.
Very good.
I found a lot of success in corporate just because a lot of the projects can be cross-functional. So if you have, a 3D floating version of a satellite, the design team can use it, the mechanical engineering team can use it for all those reviews, the mission ops team can use it once it's in space to help with visualizing it since you can't see it anymore. So taking from corporate means you can kind of use more resources, but also spread it around different departments and groups, which definitely gets more support when they're like, oh, we can use it in 3 ways instead of just one.
Very good. Well, why don't we move on here a little bit and talk a little bit about the shop floor side of things. So when you're at that point where you've found a project and you've built this content or you've built this process, and you're starting to roll it out onto the shop floor, what has that been like for you? Has it been, yay, we're all excited, we can't wait to go, or has it been, have you seen some pushback in some areas?
I feel like I've been spoiled with that, actually. All of the technicians, all the managers have essentially I've had people put on a headset and within 30 seconds, say, where has this been? Like, we need to be doing this, my team needs this. And that's, again, it's spoiled a little bit, but I think it's also a responsibility of ours to manage expectations along with that. So it's like, I don't want the solution to be technology for technology's sake. I really want to be presenting effective engineering tools to be used in that manner. And when they are, then those individuals are out there advocating, and it's just a viral effect after that. And it really hits the production floor hard, so every time you go out there with a headset, you gather a little crowd, right?
I also have loved working with the shop floor. I think it's one of my favorite places to be just because it's where most of our end users are. So it's really exciting seeing them actually using my work. One of the biggest, I'll say, learning opportunities was generating the excitement about using the headset, because it is a new technology that a lot of these people haven't used. So you have to present it in a really appealing way so that they see, the benefits of it. And this has involved a very fun teaching strategy, because no one's going to use the technology if they don't feel comfortable with it and they don't know how to use it. So teaching has been cool. We've had a wide range of ages for teaching. We have a younger group that grew up with iPhones and playing video games, and so they're really well versed in the technology adaptation as it happens, right in front of their eyes. And then we have our more seasoned experts, like Tim over here, who maybe didn't grow up with an iPhone when they were 5, or playing video games on their Xbox since middle school. And so they're just not used to this new rapid technology evolution, and they're not as well adept at some people well adapted at picking up a new skill. So it's been a challenge teaching a whole range of ages. But it's been really fun learning how to teach different people and what works best for people, because sometimes they're learning a new thing and they'll just kind of shut down when it doesn't work. So you have to, nudge them, ask some pointed questions to keep them engaged and excited about it. And other people do the opposite of, if it doesn't work in 1 second, they're like, it's broken, I can't press your button has a glitch in it. And so learning to just be patient, not take everything personally or super personally, and again, find what best learning method works for everybody has been a whole roller coaster, but very rewarding, and overall, it's really well received once people feel comfortable with the technology. Another thing I found with the shop floor is to try to make sure to never leave them unsupported. So I've had the cool opportunity to go to some trade shows. I actually met Alejandro at a trade show. And that's been really fun, bringing our satellite portfolio to life for new business. But at the same time that I'm leaving the shop floor alone and unsupported. So this has been a cool opportunity to train more people at my company on AR and make sure that everyone that's using the technology every day will never feel like, the technology doesn't work or the headset broke and I can't call Bridgette because she's not here. So that's been a really good opportunity to kind of grow the team with inside Terran.
Now, I know in the manufacturing space there's always safety concerns. Has there been particular devices that have worked better for different applications, or is there different devices that seem to be just hitting that sweet spot there from a deployment perspective on the floor?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm essentially establishing a system to evaluate not only softwares but also hardwares, and I've defined them with capability factors. And so typically as your capability factors step up with mixed reality, you get into the more expensive headsets. Of course, companies and technology is making that more economical, but it's very critical to match your hardware to your need. And I think, especially on the shop floor, passive solutions are more well received by safety as we're moving about with forklifts and heavy machinery. But I think just to have a method and a reasoning for your investment in different headsets is important.
So you have a real wide range of different headsets that you're utilizing. Are you seeing the same thing on your?
We're just specifically using the HoloLenses, and I found the most success with that because having it be augmented, no one's kind of nervous about getting motion sickness or anything like that, or running into things if there's a potential for that VR capability. But what I've also noticed is that you can't really force a worker to use a device that they don't want to. And so now that they're kind of comfy with the headsets, the HoloLenses, if we were to switch it and if upper management said, hey, you have to use this device, there would definitely be less receptive to that versus the HoloLens where they actually want to use the device because they understand the benefits and the ROI and how it helps them with their job. So we'd have to go through a whole new training process if we wanted to bring in a new headset.
Very good. Well, I think we covered almost everything that we wanted to cover today. I appreciate you both joining me on stage. I'm anxious to watch your journeys in this space. I've enjoyed it so far, and I look forward to it further. I appreciate everyone joining us on this journey here. Like I mentioned at the beginning, in case you came in late, these two will be out after this to field any questions. And again, have a wonderful day. Appreciate it.
Thank you.